Hello everyone, my name is Reza Cordova, you can call me Reza. So first of all, to all the excellencies, all panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please accept my deepest thanks to being invited in the workshop of strengthening and improving the marine litter in Indonesia that organized by the Ministry of Ocean and Fisheries of Korea, COEM, and also from ASEAN. I'm really honored to be with you in this workshop. So today, I will present the study in microplastic in Indonesian marine environment. The ecological impact of large plastic litter are particularly devastating. The marine and marine-related animals mistake plastic litter objects for their natural diet and consume them. The several hundred thousand of individual get entangled and also died in the, for example, in the discarded fishing net. The large plastic have an obvious effect. Through the UV radiation of sunlight, the heat, and also the mechanical wave action, and also the microbe activity, plastic at the sea become brittle over time and eventually disintegrate into the tiny fragment. This microscopic plastic particle, or we knew as the microplastic, that have size less than 5 millimeter, cannot be degraded by the organism like the organic matter can. Therefore, the microplastic can make their way through the food chain into our own food. The process that break down the plastic from the large size into the smaller size is secondary microplastic. There is a primary source of the microplastic. Primary microplastic are tiny particles designed for the commercial use. For example, the industries, agriculture, cosmetic, as well as the microfibers set from the clothing or other textile. The microplastic that use in cosmetic, or we call it the personal care product, known as microbeads. It's the manufactured solid plastic particle with that size less than 1 millimeter in their largest dimension. So the microplastic, the microbeads, they are the most frequent made from the polyethylene, like this one. But it can be also from the other petrochemical plastics such as the polypropylene or the polystyrene. Some studies reported a high number of the microbeads in this product. It can reach 3 million per single 100 milliliter container. In Indonesia, even though the research is not finished yet, so we still found that in the ingredient of the microplastic from the local product. You may see it. It's in bahasa Indonesia, right? Now, the microplastic recognized as the emerging problem in the ocean. The microplastic problem in the ocean must be tackled through the intergovernmental processes. It is important to develop the comprehensive microplastic pollution at the different location and also in different matrices because it has the high risk for entering the food web. We only knew that the microplastic has a potential environmental risk, but the real consequences of the microplastic are mostly unknown. The bad news is there is a prediction of the increasing microplastic abundance in the ocean by 4 times higher after 50 years. And the other bad news is because of the microplastic with all the additive material, it can attract and absorb toxic material. So the microplastic are toxic to the wildlife that eat them, and the human may eat the fish that consume the beds. So it has the high potential to make the hormone disruptor and also can be a genetic disorder that can make the impact to the behavioral change or may increase the number of, for example, like the cancer or even the strength diseases. However, this need further study to prove this. So to date, Microplastics have been detected in the human feces and also from the human placenta. This research or the article is coming just published early this year. Even though there is a good news in this both articles say there's a good news, the recent article suggests that microplastic are excreted quickly or that get out from the human body quickly. There's an increase of the risk of the human exposure to the microplastic in addition to many other pathway. However, we still have to do more research to prove this again. In Indonesia, at least there's a 5 guideline method. We knew to use the sampling and the analyzing microplastic. In this case, there is no available and agreed method globally, and there is a need for the method harmonization. Why? Because there is a couple of different approach of the sampling tools, different extraction method, and also of course the difference of the laboratory condition. At the same time, the microplastic data is needed for the scientific evidence, such as for the debris hotspot, the prediction of the abundance, and also the pathway. The harmonization monitoring method plays a role in making it easier to build an effective policy in tackling the small size plastic litter with the various characteristics. Friend et al. On just published this year, they identified the 83 peer-reviewed article published between 1986 to 2020. The major studies on plastic pollution in Indonesia quantify the macroplastic pollution or the large plastic pollution. It's a 40 number of the article. A smaller group identified the microplastics that's with 37 articles, and handful of the study quantify both. I mean, with the macroplastic, the large one, and microplastic, the small one. Only 6 article. This number of research has a contrast with the finding on the global plastic research, who found that microplastic is the most frequently studied on globally. We suspect that the lower number of the microplastic studies is due to the limited of the availability of the research equipment and the suited laboratories in Indonesia, as well as the absence of the standardized protocol for the monitoring microplastics. Please let me show you the result from our microplastic research monitoring. First, there is a microplastic in Surabaya. Microplastic that present in this area is dominated by the microplastic that have not been degraded for a long time. The highest abundance of the microplastic was found in this area closest to the land, so more people activity or more microplastic abundance. We believe the floating microplastic in the northern coastal water of Surabaya was the result from the anthropogenic activity directly. The high abundance of the microplastic in the northern coastal water of Surabaya needs more attention because of the high risk of aquatic or terrestrial organism that can ingest this kind of small plastic litter. Then we also have done the microplastic analysis in Benoa Bay in Bali. It was found that the lowest microplastic abundance in 2018, because we did that on that year, was found in the inlet and the middle area of Benoa Bay. And the highest microplastic abundance at the Benoa Bay surface um, we found during the sampling period was found around the Suwung Island in here. We found, because in this area it's a Suwung landfill, we found why this area have strong, it's strongly suspected of providing the microplastic into the surrounding area through the airborne and also the liquid. Based on this result, we do the detailed research in the landfill area. And then we going to Bogor, in my hometown, um, and then we go to the landfill area, and the result is, like the microplastic, but we found not only microplastic but also the mesoplastic. Mesoplastic is the plastic category that has size between 5 millimeter until 2.5 centimeter. So both of the microplastic and mesoplastics were identified in the all surface water sample from the leachate influent and effluent of a Galuga landfill in Bogor. The leachate water generated by the Galuga landfill is channeled into the swamp and the leachate pond near the pile of the waste, and then enter the drainage channel that flow into the Ciantan water. Ciantan River is a part of the Cisadane watershed. The Cisadane water itself have the function as the source of the raw water for the clean water supply system in the mid and downstream areas. In this case, in Serpong, in Tangerang, and in Tangerang Regency. The amount of the microplastic increased 3 times bigger and 9 times bigger for the mesoplastic after the input from the leakage drain. Our results demonstrate that the vast majority of mesoplastic and microplastic were fragment and foam, implying that the small size of plastic contamination may stem from the like the leakage landfill, and it will be released from the adjacent river to the seas. It will increase the problem in the ocean itself. And then the microplastic also found in the sediment. In this case, I will show you the microplastic that found in the sediment of the Banten Bay. The bay has experienced very high population pressure due to the increase of the coastal development in the last decade. The particles were found to be more highly distributed in the station with a fine sediment grain size, and the location were near the river mouths of the Banten Bay. This microplastic that have a higher abundance in the close to the river mouth than in offshore suggests the impact of the microplastic currently in the sediment might harmful to the benthic community and potentially increase the magnitude into the pelagic community. Moreover, the river effluent is suggested as the pathway for the plastic pollution to the Banten Bay. We also investigated the microplastic abundance in Muara Angke Wildlife Reserve, that is a relic mangrove forest in Jakarta metropolitan area. So the microplastics were found in all stations, with the sediment in the outside of the mangrove area has found a higher abundance of microplastic than in inside microplastic inside area of mangrove area. I mean, the mangrove stand could indeed retain the floating microplastic. However, it remains really unclear why the outer layer of the mangrove was higher in microplastic concentration than inner layer of mangrove. One possible explanation it's we got it the hydrodynamical model of the sedimentation in the mangrove forest. That model is showing the sedimentation rate was greater in the outer than the inner layer of the mangrove though. So that hydrodynamic thing will also impact the abundance of the microplastic. The microplastic are already found in the water and also in the sediment. It might ingest by the marine organism. In this case, we found that the microplastic ingest by Aplochelius, or we call it the blue pancak fish, or in Indonesian we call it ikan kepala timah. That's a type of fish that euryhalin that can survive in the range, the salinity range of freshwater to the estuaria. So this blue pancak fish is dominant in the Ciliwung River until Ciliwung Estuary in North Jakarta. The microplastic that ingest by this fish were relatively high by 75%, with the dominant form that we found in the fish is fiber. So this finding proved that the biota or the organism at the estuary and also in the coastal water have difficulties to distinguish between the degraded plastic and prey. We call it degraded because we found there's quite a lot of plastic in the sediment and also in the riverbanks. Additionally, the ingestion of the microplastic by fish is likely the cause of biomagnification in higher consumer. However, the proof about the biomagnification of the microplastic itself is unclear also. We have to do the more research. Um, Microplastic are proven as also the heavy metal factor, but the problem is the absorption mechanism is still unclear. Um, Purviatno et al. On 2020 proved that lead and copper will attach to microplastic through the weak bone and create a thin layer on the microplastic surface biofilm. The biofilm itself in the microplastic can increase the potential for the heavy metal absorption. However, the between the microplastic with the heavy metal, in this case lead and copper, has a weak bond, and it easily to release in the aquatic ecosystem. So it can absorb easily, but it can also can break easily. And there are we're almost done. There are several take-home messages from my presentation. The first one, there are two sources of microplastic. The first one is the primary and the secondary. And the number of the microplastic research in Indonesia, it's increasing. It's incredible. However, there are also several challenges to do the microplastic research in Indonesia. The first one is we have to there's a limited availability of research equipment and suited laboratories in Indonesia, as well of the absence of the standardized protocol for the monitoring microplastic. So if the challenge already, we got already the challenge, we can wrap up it, we can do the really good monitoring microplastic data. And then, based from the research and review article published, the Indonesian coastal and marine water, the microplastic were found in all matrices. In this case, is water and the sediment, and also in the organism. Even in Indonesia, there is a proven that microplastic as the heavy metal factor, particularly with the lead and copper. Last but not least, to do the holistic and detailed microplastic research, have to provide interdisciplinary research. Since the microplastic pollution is a global phenomenon, we should strengthen the cooperation between the local, regional, and international. Well, I think that's from me. Thank you for having me and listening to my presentation. Thank you very much. Terima kasih. Gamsahamnida. Looking forward to do the next discussion. Thank you.